Thursday for our beginner's basic class. So we have been looking forward to this one for a while. We posted about it a couple weeks ago. This is where we're going to go over some of the really essential jewelry making techniques, tools. I'm going to talk about wire, gauge sizes, seed beads. So we're going to cover a lot of the basics to give you that foundation to make a ton of different jewelry pieces. We're going to make a strung bracelet during it too. We're going to make a pair of earrings, and we're going to talk about a lot of tips and tricks as well. So it's going to be a really full class. It's going to be jam-packed. We're going to cover a lot of territory, and this is definitely your opportunity to ask questions of me, and I will do my absolute best to answer them. We also have Michelle in the background, so she is going to be able to answer a lot of questions as well. So we kind of have a team here. So you're going to be able to ask questions and we're going to get them answered for you. I see Lydia is here and Michelle just popped on, and Wild Child Designs in Kentucky. Hello. It's good to see everybody today. I am here in the Los Angeles area. It is pouring down rain today. So we've got the rain coming, but I know a lot of people have snow. Hello, Susan. So let us know where you're coming from today. It's always fun to see where everybody is at. Hi, Piper. Okay, and Jan, hello, and Laura. Oh, okay, and Laura's happy and warm from cold Atlanta. Hello, I love that. And Tish, hello. And Liz, it is good to see familiar names. So it's great to see everyone. And if you are new to us, welcome. We are live here on Beadaholique, and I see all those floating hearts popping up. So thank you guys. A couple quick things of how this platform works really quick in case you are new and joining us for the first time. We are live, which means if you are on beadaholique.com and you type a comment, I can see it. Like I see Deb is here in Chile, Arizona. Hello, Deb. That's the amazing Deb Floros. She is a wonderful designer, of course. And so I see Julie's here and Patsy's here and Santa Barbara girl. And Ramona from Mississippi. We have a great crew here today. Yay, this is gonna be so much fun. And Tina and Donna. Okay, I just wanna keep reading all the comments, guys. And I see Julie is here from Rockwell, Texas, first timer. Hello, Julie, welcome. Please, if you have any questions, definitely ask them. This is the time to ask. Natalie from Minnesota and Patty from Notre Dame. Oh my gosh, and they're all clicking up so fast, I can barely read them. And oh, Piper, is cold in Minnesota. Yeah, a lot of the country is very, very cold today. All right, guys. Okay, so I really want to get going on this class because it's going to cover so much. Oh, wet California. Bradley, yes, I am in the wet California too. I definitely had the jacket and the umbrella out this morning. It was very, very wet and lots of runoff too. Okay. All right, so as we go about the show, if you have questions, ask. If you want to know more about a product that we're looking at, you don't want to wait for Michelle to pop up that banner on your screen. There's a little shopping bag icon. You can click on that shopping bag icon. It'll show you everything we're working with. So that's a nice little tip, so you don't have to wait. It also tells you more about the dimension, the material, things like that. You can add it right to your shopping bag from there as well. And what else? There's a little share button. If you like what you see, there's a little arrow and you can share this as well. And then all of this is going to be saved. So if you want to come back and rewatch later, you can do that too. It's all archived. All right, guys, let's start designing. I'm going to flip my camera down. You guys get to see my wet backyard. Very, very wet and drippy out there. Okay, so we have fun stuff today. This is our beginner's basic class, but I hope even if you're not a beginner, you still learn something today or share your knowledge with the beginners who are joining us today, because this is a great beading community and we all help each other. I've seen so many times where in the comments, you guys have been so helpful to others as well. If I can't get to the comment or I miss it because it's scrolling up too quickly. So that is always great. Let me kind of position this so that we see everything. Okay, guys, let's start. And if you have questions, definitely ask. Okay, so let's start with your basic tools. So when you are making jewelry, there's a couple tools that you need, and that's going to be kind of the essential tools to make the majority of your projects. And I just saw someone, Eileen said she has no sound. I know this was an issue last week, and I think maybe Michelle can help us navigate it. Something to do where you have to go on out and go back in, but that has to be written in the comments, because if you have no sound, you can't hear me explaining that, which is what we ran into last week too. Okay, so your basic tools, let's start there. So there are specialty tools, of course, but these are basically your core tools that you need. So you need at least one pair of chain nose pliers. I like to have 2 pairs. When you're opening and closing jump rings, which we're going to do here in just a minute, it's really nice to have 2 pairs of chain nose pliers to grip. Now, since you have to have 2, I always think it's better to have 2 different ones. So I have a heavier duty one, which is my Wubbers. So this is, you see, this is quite significantly thicker than my Xuron. So this one has a really fine tip. So I use this one for tucking my wire ends. So if I have to get into a tight corner, I really like this one because it's got such a fine tip. And, oh, I see Deborah has no sound either. Oh no. Okay, let's see if we can help everyone get some sound going. And Piper saying I use 2 bent nose pliers to open and close jump rings. And that's a really good tip too. Bent nose pliers are a great option as well, for sure. And then this one here is stronger. So this one I actually like because I can turn memory wire ends with this one. I can, you know, those wire snowflakes that are fun to do during the Christmas season, or you can make sun catchers out of them. These ones are strong enough to turn that wire end. So if you have a really thick, strong wire, I like using my Wubbers. If I'm doing fine, delicate work, I like to use my Xuron. So it's really nice to be able to have 2 different ones if you're going to have them. So then you have to have, if you're going to make loops, you need a round nose plier. Now this is probably the first time anyone's seen me in a show use a round nose plier because I use a wire looping plier. So here is your traditional round nose plier. And so it's got 2 noses and they are both round. And so what that's going to let you do, we're going to do it in just a minute here, is we're going to make some loops with these. Now, if you end up making a ton of loops or just have a personal preference like I do, there's also something called a wire looping plier. And if you see them side by side, the difference is pretty obvious right away. And so here we have a concave nose and a round nose. And I'm going to show you how to use both of these. I, hands down, 100% prefer this one. I'm going to show how to use this one. I am a little rusty on it, I have to admit. This is not something I use a lot because I've replaced it with this one. Are there marks on them? No, there's no marks on them, but what you can do is I've seen people take a Sharpie marker and you can mark on them if you want to have a guide to make it so your loops are uniform all the time. I just saw someone say, can you please list the tools? They should be in that shopping bag. So if you click on that shopping bag, all the tools should be there. I know Michelle is popping up banners one by one, but all the tools you see in the show should definitely be there. And Pam saying she cannot get used to the looping pliers. Yeah, as you know, that's true. Some people can. It's definitely a personal preference. And so I wanted to show in this class that both are a totally awesome choice, whichever one you are comfortable with, because that's also the thing with jewelry making, is find what works for you. It's a very personal thing, kind of like I'm learning to crochet. So I've kind of started down the crochet path, and I'm finding certain things work for me, certain crochet hooks work for me, and certain don't. And so definitely always go with what you are comfortable with. Also for the size, like I would say maybe on the small side hands, but maybe average to small to average. I really like tools that just fit in my hand like this too. So I put a lot of weight or value, I guess, in terms of the size of the tool, so it's comfortable for me. So I think these are actually considered baby round nose, if I'm not mistaken, because they fit into my hand better. So I look at that as, you know, if I'm going to be doing something a lot, I want them to be lightweight. I want them to be easy to open and close. I want them to have like a spring action here. You see how they got that spring? I don't want to have to manually open them. So I like it when they spring open for me and when they're not too heavy or too big. So that's something to consider if you're new to jewelry making, is look at the size of the tool and make sure it's something that is going to fit in your hand and be comfortable. Okay, so those are the round nose or the wire looping. Hi, Leanne. Thank you for joining. Oh, we just had a huge amount of people join us. Just letting you know that we are doing a beginner's basic class today. So we're going to make a simple strung bracelet, a really pretty pair of earrings as well. We have a giveaway too, guys. We are going to do a giveaway today as well here midway through. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to cover tools, wire gauges, stringing, simple loops, wrapped wire loops, opening, closing jump rings, all the good basics. We're going to go over seed bead sizes. We're going to go over bead sizes. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I see Rosetta is saying wubbers are so comfortable. I agree. So if you guys can see this, they have a really nice handle to them that's very soft. So this is very soft. Piper's saying she also has a few Lindstrom chain nose and round nose. That's a lovely brand. Lindstrom is a great brand as well. Okay, so here are these. Okay, so we've covered chain nose and round nose. The other tool you're going to need is a pair of cutters. I like this one. I like the tip of this one. There's a lot of choices. So again, guys, these are my personal preference. You'll need tools within this category. So you'll need a pair of cutters. It doesn't have to be this exact pair of cutters. You'll need chain nose pliers, round nose pliers. I'm showing you the ones that I personally like because I find them very comfortable. But definitely there's more to choose from. So I like these because of the fine tip. So when I'm getting in there to trim some wire, I really like the little tip. And I like the weight of these and I like the size in my hand. So these are nice and they spring open and closed. Okay. And then if you do stringing projects, of course, you need a pair of crimping pliers. So we'll show these in action in just a few minutes. And I love all the hearts, guys. Will we be recording? Yes. So this video is saved. It's archived. You can always go back to beadaholique.com and watch it again. So if there's anything you want to review, absolutely. These are all saved. Okay. And so if you look at the nose of this, the tip of it, you've got that kind of like a little bean shape, the little crescent and a little oval. So this is a two-step process where we do the first part of the crimping in the back one, and then we do the front one. So this is a handy tool if you are going to do strung projects. Okay, what do you guys want to do first? Do you want to cover seed bead sizes? Do you want to cover bead sizes? I brought beads for comparison. What would you guys like to cover first? Because we can do anything. We have a lot to do in the show. So if anyone has a preference, let me know. I'm going to let someone comment because I also forgot to bring over a handy little trick guide real quick. So let me grab that real quick. Okay. All right, I'm back. Okay, loops. Okay, so wire gauge, seeds, and loops. Oh, and bead sizes. Okay. So let's go over bead sizes, seed bead sizes, and then loops. Okay, guys, I ran and grabbed a quarter. So you're probably wondering, what am I doing with a quarter? I usually have, when I'm ordering online, because you're not there to usually touch it. That's the beauty of these lives. You guys can see it in my hands. You can see a comparison. But if you are, shopping at night and I'm not here and, you might be like, well, what size is that? So a US quarter is just about 25 millimeters. So of course, bead sizes are in millimeters. We're not used to always working in millimeters. So it can get a little bit hard to conceptualize. And I even do it too. I even order something. I'm like, oh, that was way bigger or way smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's sometimes hard, but remember, if you just grab a quarter out of your purse, this is about 25 millimeters. So the first bead we're going to start with is a 10 millimeter bead. So here is a 10 millimeter bead. So if we line it up against the quarter, you can see it's just about 2.5 beads wide. So that's a really easy way to kind of try to conceptualize this. So I want to show you compared. So this is a 10 millimeter bead. This is an 8 millimeter bead. So you see we've got a 10 and an 8. And then I was going to pull out of my baggie here that we're going to be playing with a 6 and a 4. And you'll see that you think, oh, 10, 8, 6, 4, those numbers are pretty close together. But in bead sizes, it makes a huge difference. So here we have some 6s right next to it. And again, if we pull out this quarter, we'll see that it can cover, if I can line them up together, we'll look at these top 4. 4 6 millimeter beads are just about the length of a quarter. So that's kind of good to remember as you're planning your project out. And then when we get down to a 4 millimeter, it gets way smaller too. So the difference between a 10 and a 4 is huge. So if we look at the little 4s right next to those 6s, you can see that it's quite a difference. The 10 is quite large, 8, 6, and 4. Are there certain times you don't want to use certain size beads? There are. So, and usually it's a matter of weight. So like, let's say I was making a pair of earrings. Well, I don't know how many of these 10 millimeter ones in a gemstone I would want to use because they're going to get too heavy if I was making perhaps an earring. Also, if you're doing like a bead weaving pattern, it might call for a certain size bead so that the beads lock together properly in the pattern. So that's something you're going to want to kind of keep in mind is, you know, what is your overall pattern that you're trying to do? What's the size? Also, if you start using really large beads, remember that your whole creation is going to be quite large. If you're using really small beads, it's going to be a very petite creation. And Deb is saying 2 millimeter beads are great spacers. Definitely. The 2 millimeters, I just ordered a ton because of that. I was needing a little metallic spacer bead, and I couldn't find one in silver and gold that I wanted. So I found a check glass silver and gold 2 millimeter. And so that's a great spacer. So that's a great tip as well. Okay, so that's bead sizes for big beads. Now for seed beads, it's interesting. So the smaller the number, the bigger the bead. So that kind of got to wrap your head around that one. So this is a size 8O seed bead. Okay, it's a round toho. This is an 11. So you see how it gets smaller. Generally, what size beads do you use for earrings to not be too heavy? I keep it, unless it's like a acrylic bead, I usually keep it to like a 6, maybe with a focal 8. You can do some focals. I wouldn't do like a huge number of 10 or 12, even in check glass. Like a 12 millimeter check glass bead is very heavy. So I tend to keep it on the smaller side just so it doesn't get too heavy. She says, I just love 10 millimeter beads. I want to play with them. They are beautiful. You could put a focal. You could do some focal beads in the 10 millimeter, even in an earring. How do you tell the whole size? Okay. Let's see. I make stilettos on a metal skewer. Ooh, I hope I'm reading that right. Because my comments are going quickly here, guys. So the product listing, if you click on a listing, it should list the whole size. If it doesn't and you're ever confused, you can always email us. We will be happy to provide that information. Usually it should tell you the whole size though, but if it doesn't, I know some gemstones don't. So gemstones are going to usually have very irregular whole sizes. Prestige crystal, tohos, delicas, beads like that, check glass beads are going to have more standard whole sizes. I would say that gemstone beads are going to be the trickiest for sure. Let's see, I'm trying to read this quickly. Oh, and I see Michelle is answering some questions too. So then we can even go to a size 15 seed bead, and you see how small that gets. So we have 8, 11, and 15. So the larger the number, the bigger The larger the number, the smaller the bead. So a 15 is bigger than an 8. I mean, gosh, guys, sorry. A 15 is smaller than an 8. I got to keep this straight too, guys. Okay. But true, like if you guys really do ever find a listing that doesn't have a whole size, just ask us. We'll be happy to measure it for sure. Especially if you're doing a project and you need a certain whole size. Definitely happy to measure it. Oh my gosh. And Piper's saying she has some 24-0 vintage seed beads. Those are so tiny. So a 6-0 is bigger than an 8-0. Yes. So a size 6-0 seed bead is bigger than an 8. What's the difference between all the various seed bead types? Oh, Toho, Miyuki, etc. Great question, Jan. So I do have a Miyuki here. So not all 11-0 seed beads are the same, which is something to kind of remember. So there are different types of Tohos. This is a Toho round. There are Tohos that are cylindric in shape. So you'll want to look at the product listing for sure. This is an 11-0 Delica. This Delica is a cylindric shape. It is the same size in terms of it. They're both 11-0s, but they're not the same size in terms of their actual bead size. A Delica 11-0 is going to be smaller than a Toho round 11-0. I'm going to put this onto a pin so you guys can see this side by side. Okay, if you can hopefully get that in focus. Hopefully that's in focus if I put my finger here. If you look at those side by side, one bead is definitely smaller than the others. So round Miyukis compared to round Tohos are pretty darn similar. I have swapped them out in loom patterns before and it's worked out fine. So that is a good thing to note and to bring up. So here you go. There we go. So we can see that if you're doing a pattern with the Delicas versus the Tohos, it's going to be a slightly different size in terms of like width. Also, if you look at the cylindric shape, the cylindric ones lock together really nicely in like a peyote pattern. So you'll want to pick your beads based on what you want your pattern to look like. So if you have a really like highly detailed peyote pattern, you want it to be really clean and almost become like fabric-like, the Delicas are a great choice because they really lock together with their cylindric shape. The round will always have little bits of air and gap between them. They're great for loom work. I actually really love rounds for doing loom, and I love Delicas for doing like peyote. And yes, great wild child designs, great comment. The Delicas are always very uniform in size. The Toho rounds, you will see some variation. It's not a lot, but there will sometimes be a bead or two that you're like, oh, that one's quite a bit smaller or quite a bit wider than the other ones. So you will see that. Now, if you just get like check glass seed beads, and they don't have like the Toho name behind them, or they don't have a name behind them. Now, Toho is Japanese, but sometimes like check glass beads, seed beads will be irregular in size, and you'll see a lot of variation in them. Okay, let me try to get some questions. Oh, I love it. Okay, so Tisha's saying, I learned on regular beads, tiny 15-0s, but when I went to Delicas and made my first pattern, it was magic. Yes, oh my gosh, if you were using 15s and then you switched to Delicas, I bet it felt so good to be using the Delicas. So I love Delicas. I would say Toho rounds and 11-0 Delicas are my favorite beads. I use them the most often. There are other ones out there, but I do find that they work great. Okay, so why don't we now cover wire gauge, then we're going to do the giveaway, and then we're going to start actually teaching opening, closing jump rings, making loops, making a stringing project. So we'll cover some of the foundation knowledge part first. We'll do the giveaway, and then we're going to start to create. I think that will be good. Okay, so I have some wire gauges here. This is an 18. So with the, it's always confusing, guys. Here's a 22, here's a 24, and here's a 26. The larger the number, the thinner the wire. So, kind of like seed beads. The larger the number, the smaller the seed bead. Same thing with wire gauges. I know it's confusing because I always think larger number should mean larger size. Not the case. So if we compare a 26 gauge wire to an 18 gauge wire, we see the difference. So there's not going to be a giveaway code. I'll let you guys know how this is going to work in just a minute. We're about ready because this is pretty self-explanatory here. So just remember, if you're looking at wire and you're buying it, the smaller the number, the bigger the wire. Same thing with seed beads. The smaller the number, the bigger the bead. And it's so counterintuitive to me, but that's very, it's just the way it is. We just have to remember it. Okay, so guys, we're going to do a giveaway. So I don't have a sample in front of me, but we just got some of our Audrey earring kits back in stock. They're a really pretty pinch bail earring. So you get 3 earring pairs that you're going to make with these. And they're in the shopping bag if you want to take a look at what they look like. They're a great beginner project too. You get to make 3 pairs of earrings with it. And I think Michelle is probably going to post up a image of them here real quick, but they're a great beginner kit. You get everything you need to make pretty earrings with these pinch bail earrings. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask a question, and whoever has the correct answer first wins. And Michelle is going to be there in the background quickly trying to find the first correct answer. So you got to be here live. You got to be here on beadaholique.com. If you're on Facebook or YouTube right now, quickly follow that link in your video. Hop on over here because we can only see the comments here on Beadaholique. So go ahead and pop on over real quick. I'll wait just a minute or two or a second or two, and then we'll go ahead and do this giveaway question. So be ready to type, guys. Check seed beads, are they a good buy? Check seed beads are usually very reasonably priced. Great question, Yolanda. Toho rounds are actually a great price too. They're usually just a couple dollars a tube. So they're a great bargain too. Just remember the Toho rounds are going to be more uniform. So if you're doing like a loom pattern, these are going to line up a bit better than the check seed beads. Okay, so you guys know we love cats. We have all of our Sparkle Kitty mixes, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, and we're going to use one of them. We have our Mr. Kitty grab bag. We are huge cat fans here at Beadaholique, always have been. Okay, so do you guys remember the 9 Lives commercials, the 9 Lives cat food commercials? There was a huge ad campaign back in the day. I don't know if they're still doing it, but there was an orange cat who was the ambassador. He was in all the commercials. What was the name of that orange cat? First correct answer wins the Audrey earring kits. So whoever says the first correct answer, and Michelle is going to pull it out and tell us who the winner is. And I see a lot of comments, guys. You guys are fast typers, so I'm just going to wait for Michelle because I can definitely not pull out who won that. Oh my gosh, Michelle, you're going to have to repost that. Congrats. Oh my gosh. Okay, we do have a winner. I'm going to need Michelle to repost that because it went way too fast for me to say who it is. But my gosh, you guys knew that right off. That's amazing. So correct answer is Morris. Morris is the orange cat. And Terry is the winner. Congratulations, Terry. Okay, so you won the Audrey earring kit. And now we all have to go back and watch those commercials because now we're all going to think of Morris, the orange cat. Yes, good old Morris, Marianne. So congratulations to Terry. That was fun. Okay, we love doing giveaways here. Always so much fun. All right, guys. Oh, Cheryl has a Morris coffee mug. I love it. Oh, and good evening from Rachel, or good evening from England, says Rachel. Hello. Okay. Oh, you guys are all so great and supportive. I'm Seeing all the congratulations. That's really fun. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to make a pair of earrings with loops first. So what we're going to be using is a sparkle kitty mix, as we just did kitties. I'm going to be using the rounds. I made a sample one using bicones. So these are in the shopping bag too, if you guys are interested. These are our sparkle kitty mixes. They're limited edition, but they're basically beautiful crystals, and you get a bunch of different colors with them. So if you are new to jewelry making, or maybe you're not new to it, but you just love beads and want more selection, we have all these sparkle kitty mixes in rounds and bicones, and you can kind of see here there's different sizes, but they're a great way of really quickly increasing your stash and increasing what you've got to play with, and a bunch of pretty colors. So those are all there in the shopping bag if you're curious. Like I said, I used the bicones. These are the 6mm bicones for my sample pieces, and then we're going to be using the 6mm rounds to do our pieces here in this show today. But there's just so many of these, and they're so pretty. So these are, how can you, when buying beads, how can you tell acrylic from real beads? The description of the product should list what they are. So it should absolutely say if it's acrylic, if it's glass, if it's crystal, if it's wood. If you are shopping on a website that doesn't list it, definitely ask them. I would be hesitant to buy a bead that doesn't say what it is. It should always say check glass. It should always say crystal or acrylic. So hopefully, you're able to find that information in the product description. Oh, and Marianne is saying the Mr. Kitty bead bead kits are the best. Oh, you know what? I forgot to add those to the shopping bag. So maybe maybe Michelle can add our Mr. Kitty's Big Bead Bonanza to the shopping bag too, because that's a great grab bag of beads. It's a ½ pound to get you started and just have fun. Okay, guys, let's start making something. All right, so I am going to use the round nose, guys. You get to see me use round nose. And I'm laughing because I don't use round nose very often. And I'm going to show you the wire looping too. Okay, so since I have a bead mix, I'm going to pick out some beads that I think will coordinate nicely together from here. Are the Miss Kitty beads the same size? So the Sparkle Kitty beads are all the same size. So you will get all 6mm rounds in one bag, all 5mm bicones in another, all 4mm rounds in another. So Sparkle Kitties are divided by size. And then the Mr. Kitty grab bag, like the Big Bead Bonanza, is just a big bead mix. And that could be anything. That can be, there's chain in there, there's tubes of seed beads in there sometimes, there's even leather cord or focals, or it's like a huge mix. And I have a past show that kind of broke that all down and played with them, and we opened up a bunch of bags so you can see the variety, and they're all different. So those ones are fun. Okay, so I'm going to pick out some beads that I think will be really pretty together to do a pair of earrings. So I'm just going to find matches. So that's one thing you can do here. Okay. And then, oh, I love it. Leanne saying, Mr. Kitty is awesome. Mr. Kitty is so fun. And Sparkle Kitty. And you guys, we have some kitty cousins coming. We have some really fun new mixes coming. And we haven't picked a name for them yet, but they're basically kitty cousins. And they're really gorgeous bead mixes coming our way soon. So that will be fun. Okay, so I'm going to use these to make my earrings. Okay, so I'm just going to line them up. And I'm going to start with a wrapped wire loop. I'm going to do one wrapped wire loop with round nose and one wrapped wire loop with my wire looping, so you can see the difference. Okay, so this is a head pin. For those who are new to jewelry making, it has a head on it. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes you have a little ball. It basically lets you create like a dangle. and it stops the bead from falling off. So it is a nice little catcher right here. You'll use these all the time. All right, so to make a wrapped wire loop with the round nose pliers, what's the difference get with a bicone versus a rondelle? So a bicone is more like almost like a diamond shape. These are bicones. If you can kind of see that, it's got a sharp edge that becomes like a point on the corner, and a rondelle is usually a little bit more rounded and a little flatter. So it's more like squished. Okay, so here we go. So what you do when you're making a wrapped wire loop with a round nose plier, you grab the wire right where the bead exits and you bend it over to the side. So if you can see that, we now have a little kink in it. Okay, now we grab it, we rotate our plier up top. So we've got one nose up top. And then you loop it around. So you're making your loop, rotate your pliers again, crisscross. So we're making a wrapped wire loop here. Okay, so now we have a loop. Now you're gonna go in with one pair of your chain nose, and you're going to grab that loop and just take your hands. You could also, if it's hard for you to grip this, you could use another pair of pliers, and you're gonna do some wraps. Okay, so now you have your wrappings. We can see that. And now this is why I like a pair of cutters that has a nice fine tip, because you can go in there and trim. And you see there's like a little pokey end. What you want to do now is go in with your pliers and tuck. And to tuck your ends, all you have to do is squeeze it. See how that's pushing it in? And that way you don't have like a sharp little bit on the edge that's going to snag on your skin or your clothing. So that was how you made a wrapped wire loop with a round nose plier. Now, to make a wrapped wire loop with a wire looping plier, okay, we're going to go ahead, put that on there. And then with these guys, what you're going to do, oh, thank you, Santa Barbara girl. And guys, I have to admit, I'm a little nervous using those round nose pliers because I'm not used to them. So here's the wire looping. On this one, you leave a little tiny gap right where it exits the bead. You squeeze it. It does part of the loop for you. Rotate it up, crisscross, pull it out. And now the same thing where you grab it. Now you can keep it in the wire looping pliers and do it from there. I like to switch over to a chain nose. And then you can do some wraps. You can do 2, you can do 3, whatever you like. Which way do you have the cutters for snipping the tails? Flat side to the bead or away? I tend to do it like this so I can get in as close as possible. I do know some people do it like this though. I tend to go here with the flat side just so I can get as close as humanly possible to that wire to snip my tail. But I have seen other people do it like this. So that is a great question. Okay, and then trim that or tuck that end. And now we've got our little wraps on that one too. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab an eye pin. So the difference between an eye pin and a head pin, the eye pin has a loop already on it. The head pin does not. It's got that little stopper bead on there already, or the stopper end. Okay, so now we want to make a little link. So we're just going to put a bead on it. And I'm going to do the same thing, guys. I'm going to do one with the one pliers and the one with the other. So in this case, the way that I was taught to do it, and there are several ways to do this. We actually should do a whole show on the different ways. So the way I was taught to do this is you bend it over off to the side. And then you're going to go in with your round nose, up and over, rotate, crisscross, and then you're going to go in and you're going to trim your wire. And you made a little loop. I'm gonna do one more because this earring is gonna have 3 little dangles on it, and then I'll do it with the wire looping pliers. Okay, so we got that. And same thing, just bend it off to the side. Can you please list all the tools? For sure. So they should be in the shopping bag, but all the tools that you need, your essential tools, is a crimping plier if you're going to do stringing projects, a couple pairs of chain nose. You can also do a bent nose as well, or some people use the round nose and a chain nose, but here's the Xuron fine tip chain nose, the Wubbers chain nose, which is more substantial. Round nose Wubbers is what I'm using. And then I've got a wire looping plier, and I have a cutter. So great question. They should be there in the shopping bag, but if anything's not, just let us know. Okay, so then we've got that off to the side. Go in there, grab it. Yes, do you have a use for all the trim from the head pins? Yes, I definitely do. I can show you too, because we don't want to waste. Okay, so then I made another little loopy-loop. Okay, trim it. Okay, so if you have a lot of, let's see, I'm just going to pretend that we made a really small dangle here. Oh, this one might work. Okay, so if you've got all these bits and ends, what you can do is you can make them into little eye pins. So you're just going to grab the end. You could do this with the round nose plier too. Turn it, notch it back, and you've made yourself a little eye pin. The longer the wire scrap you have, the easier it's going to be to use. But I always keep my little bits and pieces because I do like to not waste anything. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with the wire looping pliers, do the exact same thing as make some little loops. We'll connect this together and make a pair of earrings. So here we go. Okay, so we got that on there. Going to go in. If you're using your your wire looping, you just put it right here. You're going to grab it pretty much where it exits the bead. You have like a little bit of space for a little air. Okay, crimp it, push it, rotate it, twist it over, and that loop is done. Go in, trim it, and do that one more time with one more bead. And then we're going to put these on a pair of earrings. And so if you're new to jewelry making, this will become just old habit for you. This is just so easy to do. The more practice you have, the easier it gets. Okay. Okay, so one thing to note is sometimes when you make a little loop, it's not quite lined up straight, easy to fix. You just go ahead and you can straighten it up with your chain nose pliers. So I'm going to connect these together. So the wrapped wire loop, you cannot open. So it is all wrapped and secure. That is what it is, which is great for strong connections. But what's nice is with the eye pins and the little links you made, you can open these guys up. So to open it, you don't pull it apart ever. You just twist it open a little, slip on your little dangle you made with the wrapped wire loop, and close it on up. We're going to go up to this side now. We're going to open this one. We're going to slip on our other little link, close it on up, just kind of give it a little pinch sometimes. And now we're going to do an earring hook. And so on this one, I'm just going to open up the little loop that we made and slip on the earring hook and close it on up. There we go. Oh, thank you guys that make it look easy. I've been doing this a long time, but I will say it's not as easy for me to do the loops with this one. I still actually need practice on that one because I'm just not familiar with it. But there's a really pretty, easy, sparkly pair of earrings, and just using those beads from Sparkle Kitty, so I didn't have to buy separate colors, which is nice. All right, so I'm going to attach the other ones, but on this case, I want to show you something. if most earring hooks have little loops on the bottom of them that let you connect them onto dangles, charms, things like that. So if you are wanting to just open the loop at the base of an earring hook, you just do the same thing as we did for the little eye pins. You just twist it out a little. So I'm not pulling apart, I'm just twisting it out. So I'm going to make this earring now. So just open the little link up, put on our little dangle. So if you are using a really thinner gauge wire, like a 24 or a 26, you're probably going to want to make wrapped wire loops because they're super strong and secure. Thicker wires are easier to do simple wire loops because you don't want them to ever pull out. So that is kind of a little tip right there. If you are doing, maybe you're working even with like 28 gauge wire, you're definitely going to want to do wrapped wire loops. Okay, so for this one here, let's attach it with the earring hook loop that we opened up right here. Just slip it right on there and then close it on up. And then we've made ourselves a pair of earrings. Okay, there we go. So any questions about wrapped wire loops or simple wire loops before we move on? And then I'm going to show you how to open a jump ring too. Okay, so there's our pretty little pair of dangly earrings. Super easy to do. Okay. Oh, and Piper's been making sun catchers with simple loops. Oh, I bet those are pretty. Sun catchers are beautiful. Okay, guys, here is, oh, okay, so Rhoda's saying I make my own loops, but have a stash of already made. That is nice. Is this class always available online? I missed part of the class. Excellent teacher. Oh, thank you. Yes, so this is always going to be archived. So if you missed part of it, if you just go to beadaholique.com, on the homepage, there's a picture of my face and it says live shows. Click on that. It will take you to all the saved shows. There's also a way on the main header bar of Beadaholique. It says learn. Just click on that. The first drop-down menu is live shows, and that will keep it for all of, all eternity. It'll always be there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and open a jump ring. So when you're buying jump rings, you're going to see two words in the listing, or one of two words, I should say, open or closed. Okay. Closed jump rings means it's soldered shut all the way around. It is a secure ring. There is no opening. You would use those for like the other half of like a lobster clasp. You would use those if you want to use it as like to connect other things too, but not have to open them. Then you'll see something called an open jump ring. An open jump ring has a slit in it. It has a cut, one cut in it, and it allows you to open it. I find the cut by running my nail to figure out where it is, and you want the cut up top. Is there a video on the looping pliers? I have them, but I was not getting the hang of them. Yes, there is definitely a video on the looping pliers. I know Michelle can link to it, and I'd be happy to help answer any questions on them as well, for sure. What size are the jump rings? I think these are 5 millimeters that I pulled. So this is I think it's like a 5 millimeter 21 gauge. So what you'll see on a jump ring listing is the gauge and the size. The 5 millimeter refers to the diameter, so across, and the gauge is the size of the wire. When to use a split ring, or is that a thing? So a split ring is good if you really want to double, triple, make sure that it doesn't come undone. A split ring is a very solid connector piece. It can be a little tricky to work with at times, so I think that they're just not as common. Or if you're like hanging a charm, a split ring is sometimes a really good choice. A large split ring, of course, is like a keychain. So if you're not familiar with a split ring, the ring on a keychain is essentially a very large split ring, and it's got those couple loops, and you have to kind of pry them apart and slip them on. Great question, though. Is the wire in the purchase boxes? In the purchase boxes, Yolanda. So The wire is in the shopping bag, so that is available. And I think Michelle can probably pop up the banners for the wire again too. If I didn't get that question correct, just let me know. I'll try to answer it. Okay, so to open a jump ring, grab either side of it with that opening up top and twist to the side. And then to close it, twist it back. So here we go, twist to the side, twist back. What you don't want to do, and I'm going to do it anyways just to show what you don't want to do. You don't want to do this. That is going to deform your jump ring and make it so you can't use it. So you just twist to the side, you don't pull apart. Oh, I see Moni saying, I finally made it to the right site. Woo, okay, good. Oh, and Yolanda meant the shopping bag. Yes, the wire should hopefully be in the shopping bag. I think I added them there. If I didn't, I know Michelle can definitely add them. All right, so again, to open a jump ring, have that slit up top, twist to the side, twist back in place to close it. And you just want to make sure it's closed up, and that's how you're going to connect charms and dangles and things like that. Okay, so now let's make a bracelet, guys. Let's do some basic stringing using crimp tubes, the crimping pliers, and the beading wire. Is there a way to make your own oval jump rings? I love the opening on the side. Yes, there is. We used to have a jump ring maker tool. I don't know if it's oval or not. And there's also oval mandrel pliers. There is definitely a way to make your own jump rings. I wonder if Michelle can find any resources to pop up or any tools to share. Making your own jump rings is definitely a thing. I do believe you need a special cutter though, that is like a double flush cutter that makes that cut super, super sharp and clean. So, and do you have a video on the different types of stretch cords? Oh, some are not as strong. Do we have a video? I don't know, but I could put that on our video wish list. We're always taking requests for videos. But you're right, I could make a video on that. I like Opalon personally. You can, but you're right, there is a difference in stretch cords. So that would be a great video. I love that. Great questions, great ideas, guys. Okay, so we have some stringing material here. What kind of closures are good for making necklaces? Oh, you have lots of choices. You can do a lobster clasp. You can do a toggle clasp. I think almost any. If your necklace is too heavy, I would avoid a magnetic clasp. I'm a big magnetic clasp fan because they're really easy to get on. If your necklace is lightweight, I think that's fine. If it's really heavy, I might stay away from magnetic. But other than that, you should be good with pretty much whatever type of clasp you want. Oh, thank you, Cherise. No, don't apologize for all the questions. That's why we're here. That is why we're here. Okay, so when you're picking out stringing material, beading wire, specifically a couple things to keep in mind. Color. So there's going to be different colors. So I'm doing silver to match my silver clasp and my silver crimp tubes. And then you're going to see this, which is the strand. So basically, you're not going to be able to see this because it's going to be too tiny. But beading wire is basically a bunch of tiny strands all coiled together to make it really super strong. This is 19 strands. So there's actually 19 strands, tiny strands in here, all coiled together. You'll see 7 strand, you'll see 49 strand. Usually the fewer strands, the less expensive it is. And the more strands, the more expensive it is. So that's kind of one thing you'll notice too, but there's all different varieties. I think 19 is a good kind of middle of the ground, super strong. Here's a really great picture to illustrate it. And this is very flexible. Another thing you're going to see on here is the size 0.015 inch. This is a good kind of middle of the road, works for most project size. And then you're going to see here, because we often get questions about, well, what size crimp tube or crimp bead do I use? So it will usually say it right here. So this says you would need for a crimp bead, a number 1 size. For a crimp tube, a number 2 size. We're going to be using a number 2 crimp tube. So that's nice that it tells you that. So it's right here on the label itself, and it will be in the product listing too. I like crimp tubes better than crimp beads. I think they're a little easier to work with personally. I just find them just a little less finicky. So I tend to use a crimp tube. Okay, so we're going to cut about 15 inches of this wire to make a 7.5 inch bracelet. We're just going to use our cutters. And I'm just kind of eyeballing this because, as usual, I did not bring my ruler. Okay, just going to cut that. And it has this little plastic guard. And we're just going to put that on there. Okay, put that off to the side. Here's a bead stopper. So the bead stopper is like this little accordion thing, very simple. We're going to put it about 3-4 inches from our tail, and it just pops right on there. So you just slip it in there, and it stops your beads from falling off. What it also does is it allows you, if you want to like take off some of your beginning beads, you don't have to unstring your entire strand. You can just go ahead and remove your bead stopper at the end, do any little repairs or touch-ups or fixes that you want. Okay, so we're going to start by putting on a crimp tube. Tiny little silver crimp tube. This is a size 2. We know it's going to work for this project because our beading wire told us that it will. Okay, and you don't need a needle. The beading wire is stiff enough that you don't need a needle. And it is not stretchy at all. There is really no give to this. So that's just going to sit down there and it's not going anywhere. So now you can just put your beads on in any pattern you like. I'm just going to do a rainbow with this bead mix because I think that's really pretty. And what I'll do is I will take my other bracelet as a guide since I didn't bring my ruler. But I'm just going to randomly put these on. Yeah, I agree. Stoppers are a necessity. When I was prepping this class, I couldn't find my stopper. And I was actually going a little bit crazy. I was panicking just a little bit because I was like, I can't find my stopper. How am I going to do this? They are a great thing to have. Okay, and these are the size 6s of these sparkle kitties. And you see that they're just coming down towards the base and they're stopping right there. And this is about as, this is going to be a really pretty bracelet, but you can make it so elaborate. You can mix bead sizes, you can mix colors, you can use crystal beads, you can use checked glass beads, you can use whatever you want, wood. You can go as crazy as you want. The sky's the limit with stringing. If Deb Floros is still watching, she is an expert stringer. She comes up with the prettiest combos ever. So you can really go kind of crazy with this. Oh, and Marianne's saying she likes to use the wire to make earrings. That's a great comment. You can definitely make earrings with this. And Karen's saying, not all beads fit the wire like the seed beads. That is true. You'll sometimes hit beads that don't have a big enough hole for the wire. I usually find that's gemstone beads, for me at least. The gemstone beads tend to be the ones that have the holes that are a bit more problematic. Okay, we're just going to keep stringing on here real quick. In any old pattern. And I like it that we don't need a needle. That's always a kind of a nice thing. Quick and easy project. Okay. Freshwater pearls have really small holes. Oh, good call, Piper. They do. All right, guys. Here we go. Just adding beads, and then we're gonna crimp it to make our bracelet. So let's see how many we have here. You know what, I might just do this around my wrist as a guide, just to see. So I just need a few more beads. And then what's the difference between jewelry wire and artistic wire and craft wire? Great question. So beading wire, if you hear the term beading wire, it's usually gonna be this. It's this wire that's all these different coils. You use it specifically for stringing projects, use it with crimp beads. That's beading wire. Artistic wire and craft wire are sometimes interchanged in terms of their terminology. Like artistic wire can be referred to as a craft wire. It actually says it right there. So this is more of a wire that you're gonna make forms with. So you see how it holds its shape? You're gonna make forms with. You can make your own eye pins with it. You can make wrapped pieces with it. So that's what you're gonna use. And then what is memory wire? Ooh, great question. Memory wire is a very, very strong coil. I believe it's stainless steel, I wanna say. And it holds its shape, but you need a special cutter for it. You need a memory wire cutter for it. Here we go. Oh, and Piper just brought in a great comment that craft wire is a solid metal. Yep. You're right. So craft wire is definitely a solid metal. So that's a nice thing about it. And then memory wire is great. It's like a coil and it makes these really cool bracelets. And but you do need a memory wire cutter with it. It's very strong. Okay, so I'm going to call this good. So now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that I put a crimp tube on. Now, I did a little trick on my other bracelet. I'm going to do it on this one too. So we're using a toggle clasp, right? So we want to make sure that we can easily pull it so we can get that toggle in and out. So what I did is I actually added a second crimp tube that I didn't crimp. I just used it as a bead to give me a little extra length here, just so that I could easily get that little toggle bar in, and it was a little easier than trying to get this bead up too close. Do I like using French wire? Ooh, French wire is beautiful. I don't use it that much, but it is gorgeous and I would like to use it more. What do you use stretch wire for? I think I've seen stretch wire. I don't know if I've seen stretch wire, like stretch cord for like stretch bracelets. I don't know if I've ever played with a stretch wire though, but I would love anyone in the community who's played with it. Definitely let us know what you'd use stretch wire for. That sounds really interesting. Can you do a class using the wire to make earrings? Yes, I can definitely do a wire earring class for sure. Laura, what is French wire? French wire is a beautiful, like a little coil, and you can use it to do some finishing techniques on your stringing material. I've also seen it used actually in bead embroidery as a really cool decorative element that you actually stitch on. I know Michelle can pop up into the shopping cart and into the banners, the French wire, so you guys can see what it is. It's a really cool thing. I don't use it as much as I should. It's something I tend to forget about. Okay, so I'm going to do that with this one too. So I am going to take this, and I cut way too much wire to start this. I was not estimating right. Okay, I'm going to put now 2 on. Normally you wouldn't put 2 on, guys. I just, with the size of my 6mm beads, I wanted to give myself a little extra room for that toggle bar. But if you're doing like a project with seed beads, or something, you can kind of taper your end so it gets a little bit narrower up towards the toggle bar. Okay. So what you don't want to do is you don't want this to be so stiff that it won't bend. See that? So you're not going to pull it too tight. So what I kind of like to do is I like to lay it in a circle shape, kind of like how my wrist is going to be. What would I use the necklaces and lanyards so that they don't keep breaking? Oh, they do not last for me. What wire should I use? I would use, are you using beading wire to start with, or using like a thread? I would suggest a beading wire. It should be really strong, especially if you get a good crimp on there. It should be strong. Okay, so now I'm going to add to this side, and I have too much of this wire, guys. I don't like wasting, but I cut that a little too big. Okay, I'm gonna grab my toggle clasp. Here's my toggle. You can use a magnetic clasp. You can use whatever you want. I thought this was a really cute little petite toggle clasp. I'm gonna do the bar end because I put that extra little crimp tube in there to give myself a little extra space. So I'm gonna thread it through the little loop. And by the way, this is not a bruise. I was cleaning up my kids' art supplies this morning, and I somehow touched some semi-permanent marker. Okay. Yes, I've used beading wire, but not sure if there's a better one. Maybe, so are your necklaces and lanyards on the heavier side? If they're on the heavier side, I would go up on the strand count. So that might help if you're finding it breaking. But if it's the wire itself shouldn't usually break. Maybe is it the crimp tubes that are breaking? Because maybe that's part of the problem. It could be like a size difference. Yes, I generally use 49 strand bead-along beading wire. So far, no breaks. Okay, that's a good comment and good feedback for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have a couple inches here. We're going to slide that little tube up. We've still got our bead stopper on. We're going to slide up this little crimp tube. So you have made a loop. Now there are things like thread and wire protectors. There are things like crimp bead covers. We're covering the very basic here in this class because we could keep adding. And then, but there are things you can do here. Like if you start making a lot of these bracelets, you can use French wire, you can use the thread and wire protectors. Gives it a little cushion from wear and tear. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. If you think it's gonna have a lot of wear and tear, you might wanna use like a little thread and wire protector. And we have a video at beadaholique.com showing how to use them, showing how to use crimp covers. All right, guys. So here we go. We have our little loop. You don't want it so tight that this doesn't have any flexibility, but you also don't want a big gap. So you're kind of just eyeballing it. Now, we got 2 strands coming out of here. I saw another designer do this. I thought it was really smart. She kind of pulled the strands apart a little because you are going to be creating 2 channels here. Now we're going to be using the back notch, the little kidney bean, the little crescent moon here. We're going to put our crimp tube in there. Okay, so we've got it in there. See how it's in the back right there? We can kind of look on this side too. And we're gonna squeeze. And by squeezing it, it created a little crescent shape. So crescent shape, and then we've got the 2 wires going through the 2 little channels. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on its side and put it in the front notch. Okay. So we're going to sit it up on its side, if we can kind of get that in focus. Hopefully that's showing. It's up on its side. And then we're going to squeeze together and fold it over on itself. So this is what we've got now. That is a crimped crimp bead. So that should be really nice and secure now. I have to tell you guys, learning to crimp a crimp bead was my most traumatic jewelry experience ever. I spent about 2 days crying, and I ended up learning that my crimp bead itself was a bad metal and kept cracking on me, but I didn't know that at the time because I wasn't, very familiar with jewelry making at the time. So I have to really share that your materials are important. So sometimes if you end up super frustrated with something, check to make sure your materials are of good quality, because I really did spend like 2 days crying, not being able to crimp a crimp bead. Okay. I'm trying to read the comments. Okay. Sometimes mine break. Yeah, it is hard. I will say it seems like it should be the easiest thing in the world, but it really does take a lot of practice to do it. And I still get nervous crimping a crimp bead. I will say that. But you should be able to do it with time and practice. Make sure you have the right size crimp tube for your wire, for your pliers. You'll notice different pliers are for different size crimp beads and crimp tubes. So you kind of got to make sure everything matches. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, I'm not going to trim my tail yet. I'm going to go to my other side first. But what I do want to do actually is some people trim right here where it exits. I like to thread it through an adjacent bead or two. I just feel better about it, as long as I feel confident that that won't come out and poke, but I do like to thread my tail through a little bit. That's just me. Some people don't do that, and that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to take off our bead stopper, and we're going to grab, we already put a crimp tube on here as our first bead. We're going to grab our toggle clasp round part. Okay, and we're going to loop it back down through our crimp tube again. Now, come on. All right, so we're pulling it down so that it's going to be nice and close to the end. There we go. Again, I want a little bit of flexibility here. Yeah, I agree, Moni. Researching the findings can take longer than the designs. It really can. It's sometimes a lot to find the right size findings, make sure everything works together. Okay, again, I have that little loop right there, and I've got my crimp bead. Now what I want to do here before I crimp it, because once you crimp it, it's done. There's no uncrimping a crimp bead. I want to make sure this isn't too stiff. So this is where I go in. I make sure that it's going to clasp. I make sure that all my beads are nice, that they can still move a little bit, that they're not too tight, too scrunched up. Okay, and then I got the strands separated out again. And this is a little bit harder to get in here, I won't lie, because I don't have as much flexibility. Okay, so I've got it in there. I've got my strands separated back under there. And crimp. So I make a little crescent shape, so we see my little crescent again. And then I'm going to rotate it. And just take your time, guys. Okay, I'm going to make sure. Okay. And put it in the top notch. Squeeze. Sounded like a snap, but it's fine. I think that was just my pliers, because I did get that crimped, and I got it crimped. Okay, good. Don't know what that sound was, but my bead is intact. Okay, so now I'm going to thread this little strand through its next door neighbor bead, because I don't know, I just don't like trimming it right next to it. Okay, went through a couple, which is fine. Okay, pull it down. Okay, and now I'm going to trim it. Do you use bead covers? Bead covers are great, yes. I didn't add them to this project just because I wanted to keep it kind of at the basic, like this is the essentials, because you can definitely keep adding things. If you make a lot of projects, these are nice, the thread and wire protectors and the bead covers. It gives it a really nice finished look. So those are always great add-ons. Okay, just go in there. Trim your wire off. Same thing on this side, just hold it, trim it. And we have a finished bracelet. And yes, this video is definitely saved on the website. So here we go. So this is what the bracelet looks like with rounds. This is what it looks like with bicones. And these are the 6mm sparkle kitties. So you see that there's all these different pretty beads. Okay. I love it. So Leanna's saying, I get rather animated. I blame it on the Irish frustrated artist. You know what? I love that excuse too. I blame so much on my Irish red hair. Okay, so those are the bracelets. Okay, guys, that was really fun. I'm going to flip the camera up and I'll answer a few more questions once I have the camera flipped up. But we covered stringing, we covered gauges and bead sizes and simple wire loops and wrapped wire loops and jump rings. Yeah, and then these mixes, if you're looking to get kind of started and you just want a really good variety and a lot of beads to start with at a really good value, these are great too. So, oh, Santa Barbara girl, thank you. I'm glad you guys like this class. I was excited to do this one. We've been planning it a couple months, or not a couple months, but about a month now. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera up and then we can talk some more and answer any more questions. Okay, guys, let me show you the bracelets here. Oh, dropping them. Oh, I love the hearts too. Okay, so really pretty, really sparkly, really easy. And then as you advance and you get more comfortable, like these earrings here, we use the wire. So if you're wondering what you would use like artistic craft wire for, you could do wire wrapping around bead frames. So that's really fun. Is it necessary to use wire guards when making necklaces? It's not necessary. So that's a personal preference. Again, it's going to come down to like wire guards are great if you think there's going to be a lot of wear and tear. If you think it's really heavy, that wire guard is basically cushioning. It's creating like a little archway of metal that your beading wire is going through. So it's cushioning it against wear and tear. So if you do have a history of breakage, if you do have a history of your pieces not staying intact, wire guards might be a really good option and solution. So wire guards are great. And we can do a class on them later too. Like I said, I kind of wanted to keep it at the basic because I knew we were going to run pretty long today with this class, but wire guards are great for that. Oh, and you love the small bowls used for the beads. Oh, I am a thrift store. Oh my gosh, I love thrift store shopping, guys. That's where all of these bowls come from. Thrift shops, I love them. Antique shops. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. This is saved. You can go back and rewatch. It's also shareable. If you want to share it, there's a little share icon. Do you have a wire guard to show us? Yes, I do, Roxanne. Let's see if I can maybe hold it up with a plier because it's tiny. Let's see. Okay, can we see this? It's like a little horseshoe. Let's see if I get it in focus. It's kind of in my nose. So this is it. It's a horseshoe. Basically, what happens here, oh, Leanne loves thrift stores too. Thrift stores are the best, guys. I discovered them a little late in life, and I regret that because I'm like, what did I miss my whole life? Okay, so basically they have, oh my gosh. Guys, I'm going to flip my camera down real quick. All right, so if you see right here, here's your thread and wire guard, and it has a little hole. And what you're just going to do is you're going to put your wire through that little hole, and you're going to loop it around. And this is going to be with your clasp. It's going to rest on the inside of this little loop. Okay. If I can get this through. Okay, there. So you see how we've made like a horseshoe? And then what happens is you pull this down, your clasp is resting now against the metal and not your wire. So that's going to be a protection against wear and tear and weight and all that other stuff. So that's a thread and wire protector. So hopefully that helped explain it a little bit more. All right. Oh yeah, you do find fantastic finds. Oh, Leanne, go to different thrift stores in different states. Oh yes. So what I did with my kids, we did a thrifting weekend last weekend. I gave them each $10 and we went to like 5 different thrift stores and they had to decide where to spend their money. But it was a lot of fun. And I bought a dish set. So I was very happy from 1965. So that was fun. Great. I'm glad that helped. And Sarah from Pomona. Oh my gosh. If you're actually from Pomona in LA, I am your neighbor. I'm in Claremont. I'm right next to you. So we are very close. All right, guys. So if you want to rewatch this, definitely is archived, and ask questions. If you added anything to your shopping cart, if you picked up a pair of pliers or one of the sparkle kitties or any of that stuff, make sure you check out. Some things do sell out quickly during the live shows. It's just the nature of what happens. We try to keep things stocked, but things do sell out. So if you have anything in your shopping cart, make sure you cash out. Oh, and Dorothy's from Canada. Hello, and have a great day. Have a great day, Leanne and Roxanne and Deborah. I'm glad you guys liked this class. We are here every single Thursday. Oh, yes, Claremont Farmers Market. It is the best. I agree. Okay, how many beads are in the bag? It is a lot. I don't know the exact number. So let's see. hundreds probably. Well, it depends on the size, I guess. So it hopefully is in the listing if it's by gram weight or bead size. There are a lot of beads. You get quite a few. It's a really good bag, good mix. So if there's not that information and you want to, all the gram and counts are in the product pages. Okay, so if you go and you click on the image, or you click on the image in the shopping bag, I'll take you to the product page. That will list the bead count and the grams. Okay. All right, you guys, I will see you later, Wild Child Designs. Thank you for joining. Guys, take care. Have a good week. Have a happy Valentine's Day. I will see you guys next week. Oh, Rosetta's saying over 500. Okay, so that's probably for a smaller size, I'm guessing. But there are a lot of beads in the Sparkle Kitty mixes, and they are limited edition, guys. So those are something we're happy to be able to make, but we can only make so many. Bye, Piper. Bye, guys, and Deborah. Oh, yay. Thank you, guys. I will see you next week. Okay, bye, everyone.